perfect in many ways. Yes, people were very law and order minded, for sure. But yes, people also didn't want government going too far into their backyards. I got the feeling there was a very libertarian spirit among many people in this community and a strong independent spirit. That's what I determined myself by simply hanging out in some bars and restaurants. I never saw an African American person. The people who talked to me were mostly white and Latino. And I know that the Jackson family and many people and advisors around the Jacksons were very concerned that there would be no African Americans on the jury, and I was not. Because Michael Jackson brought races together, he didn't divide them. And when we were picking the jury, I looked over at the prosecutors, 3 white males and their white male jury consultant. I looked at them, and I'm an intuitive person, and I said to myself, they have convinced themselves that they cannot lose this case. They and the media have conditioned each other to try and get what they want. They're simplistic when it comes to race. They have no experience with African American people at all. And I can tell what they think I'm going to do, because they knew I've been very active in the black community in Los Angeles and the South. They knew I went to an African American church, and I had a reputation. And I think their simplistic notion was, he's going to desperately do anything he can to get a black person on the jury to try and hang it, because otherwise he doesn't have a chance. And that just wasn't true. That just wasn't true. So, what were we trying to show about Michael Jackson? We were trying to show that he was not only one of the most brilliant geniuses ever to grace the planet, creatively, dance, music, art, painting, choreography. There's almost no creative endeavor that he wasn't brilliant at. We also wanted to show that he was one of the most brilliant, the most generous humanitarians ever to grace the planet. That he had a rule that before he ever did a concert around the world, he would visit a children's hospital to see sick children. That he had secretly given so much money to help disabled children around the world, children who are victims of tragedies. That he had built Neverland for one primary purpose, to see children happy, to see disabled people happy. Yeah. That he had a waiting list for years of people who wanted to visit Neverland, inner city children, children born in poverty and violence, children with disabilities, children with rare diseases, people who were disabled. He got joy from this. He didn't have to do it. That's right. He could have just bought a mansion on the French Riviera and just partied all the time if he wanted. That wasn't what he wanted, okay? Mm-hmm. So we had to show this jury who he was, and we had to show the jury what charlatans the prosecution's witnesses were. And I think we really effectively did that. Yeah. Yeah. However, they did some permanent damage, in my opinion. I don't know. I can only speculate. But I feel that Michael didn't totally recover from that horrific ordeal. 5 months in that courtroom, 5 days a week, hearing people attack him this way, knowing he may never be free again, scared to death what it would do to his children. It was a horrible, horrible experience for poor Michael, and it should never have happened. Mm-hmm. And remember, there was a build-up before it, because originally there was a criminal complaint filed the previous year, then there was a grand jury convened, a grand jury indictment. All of this time, he's living on pins and needles, trying to figure out who to look to trust, who to look to be protected. And it was just an abominable experience for him. Sometimes I wish I'd known him during happier periods, but I think I was meant to know him during this very low period. I can't tell you how honored I am to have been able to be his defense attorney. My partner Susan and you and I, we both worked morning, noon, and night on this defense. We didn't know who to trust sometimes ourselves. We kept our theories and our strategies to ourselves. One thing I learned very quickly was that media wanted to try and undermine me and try and put me in a compromising position if they could. The problem was that I was in bed at 7:30 or 8 o'clock every night in my condominium, and they couldn't find me in any bar or restaurant. I wouldn't go. I knew what they were trying to accomplish. Susan also is someone who goes to bed very early. She had a duplex not far from mine. We had our staff who had duplexes. We were in a housing development away from the hotels. We had a duplex that we called our war room that was nothing but computers and about 3,000 to 4,000 binders of documents. During the night, our staff would work all night updating witness books for me, and they had a key to my door, and it would be opening at various hours where they would drop books on my stairwell. So when I got up, I would have them for my 3 or 3.5 hours of preparation during the early morning hours before I walked into the courtroom. So the media just couldn't find me. I mean, William says I wouldn't talk to him. He's correct. I just avoided the media like the plague. One media person, who actually has become a friend, she's a pretty professional producer, got to me during a break during the trial in an area she wasn't supposed to be to let me know that Katie Couric wanted to fly across country to have breakfast with me, and I said no. And then the response was, well, what if she meets you in another part of the county that where people won't see you? I said, did I say no? I was not going to be seen with any of these people. All right?
That's right.
I didn't trust any of them. And I know how the media seduces lawyers. I see them on TV every night on these shows, and they've got, you know, stardust in their eyes, and they look like fools to me. And that just wasn't going to happen. And Susan, you can't stand the media, so there was no issue there. But we did our job as best we could, and we really believed God was with us because we were in the right.
Amen.
I'm here, first of all, I don't have any financial interest in this organization. I'm not getting paid anything to be here. As I say, I don't care who you are, if you stand for the right principles, I'm behind you. And anyone who wants to promote the idea that Michael Jackson was the victim of horrific injustice by being charged and tried and put in that position, I'm behind you. I have no knowledge of any specifics of William's project, but if he's diligently and professionally and ethically trying to get this thing done, that's enough for me. I would certainly support it. It probably won't be an easy thing to do. It was a long trial. It was almost 5 months. You had about over 120 witnesses in the case. Some of them not as important as others. But I wish, I didn't want television cameras in the courtroom. I felt they would add to the circus-like atmosphere of the case. I felt witnesses would see what other witnesses were saying and perhaps be affected because they would watch television. I also felt the judge would be a little less threatened by me coming from Los Angeles, into his community, if I didn't act like I was a media hound. It didn't act like it was all about me. And I wouldn't change anything given the result we got. But I do think that if people had seen the cross-examination of these witnesses, like William mentioned, they would realize what charlatans and frauds so many of them were. And I really do mean that. I mean, it's almost hard to believe that they were calling these witnesses and asking the jury to believe them. But they thought they couldn't lose. They truly did. And they thought they couldn't lose partly because in California you have a very, very strict law, which other states don't have. Which is that in a case like this, you can bring in evidence of similar actions. And they were calling these witnesses to suggest that 5 other young men had been molested by Michael Jackson in addition to the alleged victims in this case. And they had witnesses who were going to say they saw it, okay? Now, 5 young men, okay? These are supposed to be the prior similar acts that will prove that this person does behave this way. When we came to our case, my first 3 witnesses were 3 of those 5. Macaulay Culkin, Wade Robson, okay? And what's his name?
Brett Barnes.
Brett Barnes, okay? Now, they had put on witnesses to say they saw all three being molested by Michael Jackson. But they didn't call the three, I did. Everyone got up and said, this is ridiculous. He never touched me. Barnes flew from Australia, lost his job, and said, do you think I'd be here, up here if this man had molested me? No, so that leaves two other ones. One of them, Chandler from '93, who got the big settlement, never showed up. I'm told he fled the country because he didn't want to testify. And the other one got up and said that he wanted money and his mother wanted money because he'd been tickled outside of his genes and he needed 5 years of therapy. Those are the five, okay? Those are the five. Now, any of you who covered the trial knew the problems with the Arvizo family who had come in and testified that Michael had molested Gavin Arvizo. Their stories kept changing. The family had been involved in an incident at JCPenney stores years before where Gavin, the alleged victim in the case, was running out of the store as a young child. I think he was about 10 years old. They said he had shoplifted something. And there was an altercation in the parking lot with the mother, and some security guards restrained her. They called the police. The mother went to the police station in Covina, West Covina. They photographed her. She doesn't have a bruise on her face or a hair out of place. They asked her in the intake forms, do you need any medical attention? And she says no. Okay? Now, weeks later, she files suit against JCPenney stores and comes up with photos with all the bruises all over her body, okay? And Gavin was deposed. I believe his brother Starr was deposed. They all supported their mother. The suit began as an assault case and then gradually evolved into a sexual assault case. And because she had waived the attorney-client privilege, which keeps your communications with a lawyer confidential, we were able to call her lawyer. And because all of a sudden she was saying that these guards had been doing belly flops on top of her and had twisted her nipples, I think 30 times or something like that. I don't remember the exact number. And the lawyer said that he was shocked because she was questioned under oath and he didn't realize she was saying that she'd been sexually abused till she was questioned, and he said, I've been talking to her for a long period of time and she never mentioned it.